Hello, everyone. Today I'm taking a look at Resident Evil 3. Wow, this one was also pretty good, but definitely not as good as 2, I feel. But you kind of see the transition point. 3 had a lot of really interesting aspects and how it would bridge the gap between 2 and the rest of the series. You know, all the kind of standards that would be established by the fourth game really appear here, and a lot of the stands for the rest of the series. I even recognize things like the knife animations, which they use for the RE remake on GameCube. Things like the mercenaries, things like the different playthroughs, outfits. I mean, that's completely new outfits. So yeah, overall, I think 3 is it's a strong game. It's a good game. It's just not quite as good, which is kind of what I expected going into it, but it was still very fun. You still have your action, and you still have your puzzle solving, I should say. And the thing is, this game came out right after, 1 year after. It was like 99, and the last one was 98, I believe. Yeah, so this game came out right after the second one. So because of that, you notice a lot of reused assets. It kind of makes me wonder if Jill was actually supposed to be Leon's other story rather than Claire. And so things like, the police station, a little bit of that is reused, but it kind of shows the full scope of really what they wanted to accomplish with the second game, which is that you want to be immersed in the city, and the city is this giant map, you have this giant downtown cityscape that Jill has to essentially navigate. There's a few funny lore things that I ran into while I was talking to a friend about this. Is that Jill, like, there's obviously some time lapse between the Raccoon City incident and the mansion incident and the Arclay Mountains. Of course, you have Resident Evil 0, which is like an in-between on the train from, the mountains, and that kind of fills up the space. But I always get the vibe it's been a couple weeks or maybe a month since that incident, because at the beginning of this game, Jill is just chilling in her hotel in the middle of Raccoon City when suddenly the outbreak begins, and it's just immediately plunged into the action. So as much as I felt 2 was kind of a ramp up to the first game, where it's much more action oriented, you really kick it off essentially with Leon and Claire in downtown, surrounded by zombies with over 100 bullets in your thing, and then it settles down into the pacing of the slow-paced puzzle game. Here, that is even less of an aspect. You start the game with Jill and a fully automatic machine gun. And while there is still puzzle solving, it takes place over kind of like a broader scope. Those very intricate, highly detailed puzzles, really, the puzzling is really taking a backseat to the action. And it's really interesting too, because Resident Evil 4, while it is very action oriented, I would say it still has a very strong puzzle identity to its mechanics, and it is something that is still very much imbued in the DNA of the game, if you will. So it's interesting how even I think this game has even less puzzles, well, definitely less puzzles than Resident Evil 4, and it's trying to be, again, more action oriented. Again, something else I mentioned, like extras. So when you beat the game, you get things like costumes and the boutique key. And there's this one area, now thank God I didn't look it up, but once you beat the game, in order to encourage multiple playthroughs, it gives you a key to this boutique where you can change Jill's costume. And since I was playing on easy and hard, I got the Dino Crisis costume, which was really cool. I've never played it, but I immediately recognized it, and also her original costume from the first game. So yeah, there's like a few fun, cool things that they started to do with the series, where they kind of went away from just traditional survival horror. And it's funny how it pioneered survival horror, but every game successively after the first game is less survival and less horror and just more action, which is fine. But yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up. When you start the game, there are only 2 settings. There is no normal. There is easy and hard. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not here for a hard game. Like, I always do hard mode. My theory is that, easy mode is always the tutorial. if you want to play more of it. So I just went with easy, and I felt a little bit like I was cheating at the beginning of the game because they give you a full arsenal of weapons. They give you machine guns with like 2 clips. They give you a pistol with 250 pistol ammo, a shotgun, magnum. They give you the whole deal right off the bat. It felt like I was playing like a modded version or like a beaten version of the game, but just in a different file. But yeah, no, you do use a lot of ammo in this game because it is action oriented. So it was weird. It felt a little bit cheap at first to have all this ammo, but you really do need it for the amount of enemies that you were just constantly fighting and going through. And so Jill's arsenal. So you do also play as another character, Carlos, who is part of this mercenary group hired by Umbrella, who's there to extract civilians, and also get combat data on the BOWs. And their mission also goes sideways, so they have to team up, obviously. And so I don't know. Carlos is a character. He feels fine. He feels kind of like an action movie side character trope kind of person. I felt that there's a lot more chemistry despite less interactions between Leon and Claire in the second game than Jill and Carlos. He just seemed like a very flat, forgettable character. Jill here is also pretty good, and she begins the game with this monologue of like, oh, if only the people rose up and fought against Umbrella and all this stuff, and just resistance. Very, very generalized stuff, nothing super specific. But yeah. Throughout the game, there's also other characters part of the mercenary group that she interacts with, Nikolai and Mikhail, and they have their own sort of, sub-story, I suppose. But yeah, that's pretty much the main cast for this game. And of course, Nemesis. And it's kind of cool and also kind of funny how Nemesis is just never elaborated on. Like, there's no like, oh, he was engineered by the G virus by cross-combining it with a series of DNA. It's like, no, Nemesis is Nemesis. Like, the guy on the front cover, that is all the context you get for this character, and that's really much all you need. He's just this big tyrant, G virus guy. I was kind of confused because in the second game they talked about the G virus. Now it's even more virulent and worse than the T virus, and it wasn't clear to me if the G virus is only responsible for making tyrant style bioweapons, and the normal kind of zombies are still just T-virus. It's also interesting they call them zombies throughout these early games. So usually, when The Walking Dead comes along, they call them walkers. There's always some weird new name that people invent for these things. Also, in terms of story, yeah, it's really, again, not super complex. Jill, she's just in the city and she has to like escape and get out and just survive. And so her story is basically getting out of Raccoon City before it gets nuked. It's also really interesting that they never say Raccoon City gets nuked. I've heard like very specific fan theories before playing this that apparently it was a thermonuclear blast that would kill only people and whatever. They don't even say nuke in the game. They just say the missile. There is a missile, or the missile is coming, and then you just see this nuclear explosion that wipes out just everything. So I mean, that's kind of cool. But yeah, the gameplay is not that much different from the previous game. It just feels a little more fluid. Thank God you can use the control stick now, because the previous one was only D-pad, but now you can actually use the control stick, and it's so much nicer. D-pad movement, D-pad anything besides selection is not comfortable. D-pad movement. But yeah, you start with things like your pistol, your shotgun, your magnum, grenade launcher, and assault rifle. That's kind of a new one. It was kind of like the submachine gun in the last one, but it feels a lot more useful now. And you get it at the start of the game, so they obviously wanted you to use it. And you also get a rocket launcher near the end of the game, which is used for a specific kind of boss fight, which is very fun. The ending of the game is, I think, very, very fun, and it's a fun little kind of walk around section where you have to charge this giant Tesla coil. It's actually very cool and very fun, and it kind of pushes what you call pre-rendered background technology to the limit. It just looks really cool, and I'm very just a little bit nostalgic for that style of game that at the time it was such a crude limitation. I think they thought in their mind, but it's a really, I don't know, it looks really cool. That's what I'm trying to say. In this one, enemies don't really respawn. Usually they will kind of be killed and that's it. There's a combination of like, I don't want to say, I know there's leapers, there's lickers, and then there's the third type, which I remember from Resident Evil 5, mostly from their mercenaries mode, where it's these scarab-like things that come at you. I didn't even realize those were in this. So those are here. You have the normal zombies. You, of course, have Nemesis. You also have crows now, so watch out for that, and like little snakes or whatever. So yeah, pretty standard roster, I would say. And yeah, just getting back to Jill's story, yeah, it's really unclear. So Jill's in Raccoon City, and Chris, like, we don't see Chris. It's really crazy. Chris was in the first game, and we won't see him until Resident Evil 5. We won't see him for 4 games, which is still just, I mean, I think I knew that at the time I was playing Resi 5, but I hadn't played these at the time, so I didn't really care or know. So it was really weird actually realizing that the main character of the first game, he's just completely absent, and we just have no idea where he is. Well, we all focus on the sub characters like Jill and Leon and Claire and stuff like that. Also, at the same time, Wesker is not seen until 5. So 5 was very much kind of a soft reboot in a way, because again, Wesker seemingly died at the end of 5, but we don't see him for a long, long time. And of course, there's all the other games like Code Veronica and the other things outside the mainline settings, which I really, frankly, don't know much about. And, like, I think Code Veronica was all about the Spencer family, so yeah, I played it a bit, but I wasn't. Yeah, it's really interesting how seeing this game and seeing the scope of the Resident Evil franchise in general, it's trilogies of trilogies where you have 1, 2, 3 that are in this tank control style, 4, 5, 6, which are more modernized over the shoulder, and then was it 7, 8, 9, which are first person and third person combination with 9. And also 7 and 8 also got updates that allowed you to play in third person. So it's interesting to see how segmented everything is, and how perhaps there's some more similarities between 6, 3, and 9, and 2, 4, and 8. Another interesting mechanic that also shows up in this game that would be a mainstay is this is the game that introduced the gunpowder mechanic. I was so surprised that it was this early, the whole combining large powder with small powder, making handgun bullets or shotgun bullets. I wasn't sure. The only other time I've seen that is Resident Evil 2 remake, so I was really surprised to see it here. I thought it was from that game, but it's actually first in 3. Another mechanic is this weird choice decision tree where the screen will go kind of black and white, and Jill will have to make a split-second decision, almost like a Telltale game, which I found kind of novel and interesting, frankly. I didn't realize like that was such a old thing. I'm not sure if there's exactly like an actual story choice answer you can do. It just seems like if you do the wrong thing, you die, and if you do the right thing, then you win, which leads into the heavy use of QTEs that would take place in Resident Evil 4, so it's a prelude to that, essentially. Also, in terms of characters, I forgot, Barry Burton shows up at the end to pick up Jill and Carlos and fly them out of there. So I think that's pretty cool. Another weird thing about this game is they have blue herbs, a lot of blue herbs, and I don't think I got poisoned once. Like, there were spiders, but I never got poisoned by them, and the snakes, I don't know, maybe it's just an easy. Another really cool mechanic that I actually really like is the ability to auto-target onto explosives or environmental hazards. So while you still press R1 to aim your weapon, you can press R2 to only lock on to exploding barrels and acid faucets and stuff like that. It was a really fun mechanic, and I would love to see another game like Resident Evil where there was just a lot more traps to interact with in the game, because it was legitimately a super fun way to interact with the environment and the world. Another thing that also really surprised me, just speaking of new mechanics, is I didn't realize this game had the first instance of the mercenaries. And of course, it makes sense because the characters you play as in the Mercenaries mode for this game are Nikolai, Mikhail, and Carlos, the three Umbrella mercenaries who were sent in. And I was like, oh, this is what it's from. I was like, no way, that's so cool. And I know I just never knew that deep lore, that or mechanical lore, that is where it comes from Resident Evil 3. And of course, it's something you have to unlock once you beat the game. Maybe that's not why it's as well known. But I thought Mercenaries first appeared in 4 for whatever reason. I thought, oh, there's no way they could do it in the older games, but they have. And honestly, it's not that bad. And it is very different, though. For example, so there is a score based. Well, I mean, there is kind of a score. It's more like basically you have to go from the train car to the beginning area. So the entire first section of the map, you have to go all the way through there as either three characters with their specific loadouts. And yeah, it even has a system where you shoot enemies, and the more enemies you shoot and you kill, you get more time, not points. So that adds to your time, so you have more time. So you have to balance ammo, health, and time, and each character has a different loadout of health to weapons, so you have to balance it out. Carlos is pretty standard. Mikhail has honestly just the cheapest, easiest loadout to use. He has a shotgun, a magnum, and a rocket launcher, and one healing item, and honestly, that's fine. You don't need more than that. And the rocket launcher is great because you can take out Nemesis with one shot. I mean, he goes down and gets back up, but it gives you 10 seconds. There's even like side objectives where you can go off the beaten path, go to the gas station, rescue a guy, and you'll get like 20 extra points just for rescuing him, or 20 extra seconds rather. And then if you get all the way to the very end of the map and get through the horde of zombies at the very end, you get this little cutscene, which is really cool, where there's a guy in a chair that spins around and gives you this suitcase full of money. And I'm not clear if it's like someone from Umbrella or Wesker or some other character like that, or some Easter egg, but yeah, that was actually really, really fun and really, really cool. And then even at the end, they have a scoring system. So depending on your performance and if you won, it'll grade you, if you survived rather, and you'll get money. And if you get there, you get about $500. And if you don't get there and you just die along the way, it's usually 100. But it even has unlocks. And so you get things like, an infinite ammo, assault rifle, Gatling gun, rocket launcher. And then, I think it's actually not that bad. It's like 2,000, 3,000, 5,000. And if you get 999, like $10,000, you get unlimited ammo for all weapons in the game. And it's really cool how it's set up where you save that. And when you start a new game, it's like you load the new save game file and you can click reset and you spawn in with those super powered weapons. And so you have that plus costumes. So you kind of see the beginning of really making the New Game Plus a real incentive for Capcom. But yeah, the Mercenaries mode is actually pretty decent. It's pretty fun. It's challenging enough that you'll just get there to the end of that last room. But it is fairly difficult. It took me like 3 or 4 or 5 times to finally do it. And you just feel like, if I just change my setup or my strategy a little bit, I can get there. It's one of those experiences, and it's very fun. Unfortunately, it's the same map, it's the same route, but yeah, it's the beginning of great things. And there's been a lot of mercenary modes. I would say that because I was talking to someone else about this. I mean, 4 was it was a very fine mercenary mode. I really liked 5's mercenary mode. A lot actually, but if I have to be honest, my favorite mercenary mode is actually Revelations. That thing is literally addictive. I got really, really addicted to Revelations Mercenaries more than the base game, way more. I was really kind of shocked, honestly. But yeah, lots of interesting mechanics. Some pretty innovative puzzles. Honestly, there's one that's like a musical tone one, which is pretty interesting and different. And yeah, so there's, the game is set up into the downtown city. Then you have like a clock tower, and then you have like a military base that's not supposed to be a military base or something. It always ends up in a secret lab, right? That's their one caveat or style or thing. And there's a story about espionage. One of the characters betrays you. It's not super important. Um, and yeah, yeah, it's that. I mean, that's pretty much the game. There's not much else to say about it. Again, it's just not quite as iconic as two for whatever reason. Like it's fine, but like the environments aren't super interesting, I guess. The puzzles are, they're puzzles, they're fun, there's not too many of them, and the action is the action. It just feels like a fun, lighter version of the other games. It definitely feels kind of like a DLC-ish at times because it's the same kind of location, the same area. If anything, how you have Leon and Claire in their A and B stories, it's almost like Jill is the C story that they would have done for that game if they had more time. And fortunately, you don't have an Esther campaign to play as. You just play as Carlos here and there, who has just a larger loadout of more assault rifle ammo. So that's always fun to blast away. And yeah, the CG cutscenes in the game are also pretty good, pretty fun. I love the nuclear explosion at the end because they were limited with what they can do with the technology. It has this blue sheen after effect for like the nuclear shockwave, which I just think it's completely fake, but it looks so cool. And still, one of your major enemies in this game is still inventory management, as it is in Resident Evil 5 and so on. But yeah, I mean, Jill's fun to play as. It's really cool how she starts off in her civilian uniform, and then when she meets the mercenaries, she gets more gears and straps to her, uniform, and so she kind of changes into the main image on, the cover of the game. But yeah, Nemesis. It's great. I don't know. It's a great game. It's the last of the old school Resident Evils. Definitely happy I checked it out. It's not as good as the other ones I feel, but it's still very good. And yeah, like by the end of the game, I had so much ammo. Like ammo scarcity was not an issue at all for me. But yeah, it's a good experience. I don't know what else to say about it. Glad I played it, and glad I got the whole sandwich of the Resident Evil series. So that being said, I'll see you later, guys. Bye.